I'm talking with Rhoda Jacobs on Coney Island Avenue, Flatbush, while she's campaigning.
In front of Masbia?
Right, in front of Masbia, while you're campaigning. So, Mrs. Jacobs, if you, as a state legislature, can you discuss with me a little bit with the Con Ed issues? Con Ed just threatened this past Friday to raise the rates again.
Well, they can threaten, but they still have to go before the Public Service Commission, which is a state entity.
That pays electric.
I haven't. You want to know something? I happen to have an issue. And I'm telling you, as soon as this election is over, you go back and fight, because my daughter lives in a little apartment, I live in a house. Why are her bills the same as mine? You know, little apartment, big house, and every time I go to them, they tell me whatever they tell me, but suddenly it goes down a little bit, hers. So I understand that people are really being driven to the wall with these high rates, and we don't always understand why. And Con Ed is among the highest in the country. Yep. They had really better check the system in my daughter's apartment.
Now, do you feel there's an issue also with all these blackouts and brownouts that's going on, that they're not putting the money into the infrastructure? You know, 20 years ago, people didn't have the laptops,
we had a big
computers.
Issue years ago with Con Ed that they were the last ones to actually update their infrastructure. So that's a very good question. They have made improvements, but it was really, they were the ones who were the most lagging in exactly that. I was going to say video, infrastructure.
But is this, do you see at the rate Con Ed is going, do you think that we're going to end up like California, where the state's going to take over?
No, you know, this is historically, this is what we did with utilities. We will allow you to be a monopoly, but you have to abide by our regulations. You know, it was a deal. I'm not sure that wasn't the best way to go too. But anyway, you know, they need better competition, but among other things, they can do certain things technically to adjust. We had an issue. This is one of the things I got involved in, where in part of the district where there were, basically Orthodox households, and people turn on their electricity or whatever before Shabbos, until after Shabbos. So we were suddenly having brownouts and outages for that period of time. Now, think about that. You have an outage, not just that you don't have a light.
You can't even call.
What happens to the food you have?
It happened this past Shabbos on Avenue M.
So anyway, we worked with them and we got them to rearrange whatever they do technically to respond and to deal with the fact that you have surge in need at a certain time. They can adjust.
So why aren't they?
Well, we have to come to them. And it's interesting that there was another one on Avenue 1. Maybe we should take a look and say.
And that's not the first time. Mountain Fruit, this is the third time with Mountain Fruit. They're losing a lot of business. They have to throw out a lot of food.
We were next to them, right?
Right. So you saw it firsthand. You were there.
I said, and the first thing I thought of about them, I realized they were affected too. All that, anything in the refrigerator, they have to. It's a loss.
So is this something that you would work on as a legislature, that they have to take responsibility, and not just words, but they have to refund everybody, not up to $200. That's what, when I called on behalf of other people, they said we're only refunding up to 200 people, but you have to have receipts. How are you supposed to save? Nobody saves receipts if they have, if they bought something 2 weeks ago, and nobody's saving receipts if they purchased something 2 weeks ago, put something in the freezer, and they're making something for a holiday, and now it's in the fridge.
Send out a notice that they should, just to see, because one of my colleagues from Queens, where how long? 12 days? People had no, even more, and the Con Ed took the attitude that it wasn't their problem, wasn't their fault, and he went after them. And I'm going to take a good look at what his agreements were, what he achieved, because it's happening. Like when you're telling me, look, right now, I hear about what happens up till Avenue L, right?
Right.
You're telling me about Avenue M now. Well, that's going to be my responsibility, and I'm more than glad to jump in on that, because, one of our issues was, you want to raise rates, you this, you that. And meanwhile, and they're laying off workers, and you know what's important for us? We need them. because we need those workers because it's our service, you know. But you give them the big bonuses to the handful of people. Yeah. I mean, big issue. I tell you, I had the same thing like with Verizon, and I wrote them something. I joined my colleagues in saying, look, we think, you know, you're in business to make money, okay, but you're also in business to service, and you just announced the big bonuses you're giving. Don't you think you should be a little fair about them? So they told their lobbyist, he works very well. He sent them a nasty letter. I said, nasty letter? He only told them the truth. They didn't answer me. You have to keep after that. I believe that if you see that something's not fair, then you can't just sit back and say, that's the way it is. It's kind of... You have to deal with it. I for one, do.
This is something you will jump into as soon as the election's over. Okay, good.